Hey everyone, and welcome to our first Finding True North series from the Tech Allies Network. The purpose of this series is to share the pivotal lessons and moments that can help you navigate your career. We're very excited to launch the first one today. Hopefully technology will be on our side and will work. First of all, I want to jump over to Olivia just to explain a bit about what we're doing and why.
Great. So this is a very important time that we're living in, and we have limited access to career education, career advice, and even if we're students or young professionals, even just how to network. So the Tech Allies Network have created a weekly session every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. to talk to very important people, either their contacts and friends, to share their career story. And we're very, very fortunate that Sanaya is here with us, and she's going to share her story today with you all.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So I just want to cover a couple kind of ground rules to begin with. So we're going to be using slido.com to do some polls, but also to enable you to ask some questions anonymously. So if you can see on the corner of the slide, you can join us on slido.com using the code 61212. If you're on a desktop or a laptop, that's great because you can do slido.com on your phone or on another tab. If you are viewing us on mobile only, then I would recommend that you actually ask questions through the YouTube tab, because then you don't have to go off the YouTube app. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sanaya, who I'm very happy to have on board for our first session.
Hi guys, so I'm Sanaya. So to first get started, I thought we'll do a poll. So have you ever reached out to someone who you don't know and asked for professional advice and guidance? A lot of people nowadays don't actually do this, and I think it's one of the most invaluable things to grow your network. So yes, you may have reached out to someone and they're now your mentor, or some people just don't have the confidence and they don't know someone who can give them professional advice.
So hopefully you should be able to access the poll via slido.com. What we can do, we've started to, cool. What we can do is we'll let them vote, so they're starting to come in. Let's revisit them a bit later, maybe during another slide, if that sounds good.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
So a little bit about myself to kind of start. So I've moved around quite a bit. I've lived in India and moved around within England, and that's made me quite an adaptable and I like to think confident person, but it's allowed me to appreciate all cultures, backgrounds, and this has really helped me in my professional life. So at my A-levels, I started to study French, geography, economics, and IT. And I always had a really keen interest in business and IT and wanted to pursue this further. And I think this led me to one of my most pivotal moments in my career, which was my A-level results day. So on A-level results day, I didn't necessarily get the grades that I was predicted, and I was a bit disheartened by this. So that meant I couldn't actually go to my first choice university and went to my second choice. So it was a bit of an emotional day, I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit. But after I had a talk with my mum and those surrounding me, I always felt like I had something to prove, that I could go above and beyond and prove to myself that academic grades don't necessarily always define you as an individual. So I went to University of the West of England, which is in Bristol, and studied a course called IT Management for Business. So this is a perfect blend between business, IT, and your interpersonal skills. So from day one, I was put on year-long consultancy projects. I also created e-commerce sites, so a large variance over here. The interpersonal skills, I think, especially now being in the industry and starting my career, is something that's becoming more and more prominent and wanted from employers, because they can teach you tech skills, but it's those communication, the team leadership, the teamwork, the innovative skills that you need to start developing sooner rather than later in your career. So my university, I went, I think, above and beyond what it actually entails. I took a lot of extra opportunities on to essentially get to know my lecturers and actually do more to boost my CV, etc., as I had never had a job before. So this included being a student rep, an ambassador, a mentor to others. And with my course, there were very few people on it, and this meant that I could have a better relationship with my lecturers. My course was also sponsored by companies such as UBS, EY, Accenture, Amazon, and they offered selected internships, one of which was the Wimbledon Championships internship, which I did for 4 consecutive years. So a little bit of that background is IBM has partnered with Wimbledon for the last 30 years, doing everything from the mobile app to the website to player and match analytics and Wimbledon information systems. I was on a team that looked for ITMB students, and after going through assessment centres and interviews, I got a place, and we looked after Wimbledon information systems, which provided statistics to players, press, broadcasters, and the public on a global scale. So, like I said, I'd never had a job before, but actually talking to one of my bosses a few years later, they said to me, we almost didn't give you the job because you didn't have experience, but we thought everyone has to start somewhere. But it was those additional things that I had done at university that stood me apart and actually gave me this opportunity, which is why I think it's so important today to do more than just your actual job or your studies. You have to be involved in all other aspects to make yourself a more all-rounded individual. I have also been working with the IBM people at Wimbledon, also encouraged me to apply for my placement year, which I carried out at IBM in 2016. So here I went into a role which I thought I wanted to do career-wise. So this was in business operations, where I looked after every account essentially that didn't align to public sector or financial services. Here I got to see how all the accounts operated from various different areas. So this included accountancy and finance, innovation, anything from security and their cloud offerings to their technical solutions that we as the company were providing for our clients. So it wasn't purely technical, but again, I got involved in a lot of additional things outside my role, such as hackathons, extra tech work, which I worked with the CIO for UK and Ireland, and a lot of female in tech programs. So again, I was doing more than just my job. That led me on to continuing at IBM actually, and helped me with my graduate application, because I had given back to not only the internal IBM community, but externally too. And I started my graduate job, which I'm now on the final few months of my grad scheme as a technical consultant in the consultancy by degrees grad scheme. So here I thought I would try something new, because I knew that what I did on my placement year wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do career-wise. And luckily I was given the opportunity to do a variety of roles. You can see on the screen that I've worked for a whole host of clients in all different industries, from Virgin Money to the Natural History Museum, BP, Coventry, and now currently I'm working with Adobe. So I started off as an automation tester, which was quite a technically orientated role, but understanding the business requirements of our client and translating those into technical kind of scripts. I've also carried out a Scrum Master role, service design, which is like a technical business analyst, and now I'm training to be a DevOps engineer. So here I've constantly had to be learning and developing my skills. I also managed to get myself a mentor. So this is something that I think is extremely important to do. So I got 2 mentors actually, one for my business side of things and another for my technical kind of pathway. So they can push me down the different pathways and understand what I need to be doing to stay relevant and keep up with the latest trends. So I think networking is one of the most important things. So I was scrolling through LinkedIn one day, and actually there was someone who was quite senior at IBM, and I saw her do a post crying out to females in the tech industry, saying, if you want advice or guidance, I'd like to help. And I literally just approached the individual, emailed them, and we've now started a relationship where she offers me advice and guidance. And I do think that if I wasn't confident enough to network, this has created some great opportunities for myself. and it's allowed me to progress in my career. She's told me how to differentiate myself from other graduates that are on my graduate scheme and to always stay relevant. I also think it's, like I've said, it's so important to do things that are more than just your job. So I give back to the internal IBM community, but externally too. So with Ryan and Olivia, I'm on the Tech Allies Committee, which is great for others to pursue an interest in tech and get to know what else is going on, but also internally and this means that I can meet other people in my company. It means I can network with them, and this can translate to them actually bringing me on to other future projects. As a result of this, I've actually been nominated and shortlisted for 2 Future Stars of Tech Awards, which acknowledge females in the tech industry who are going on to achieve great things. So I think the 3 key takeaways, which I've kind of touched upon throughout, are to be willing to always learn. You need to have a can-do attitude. You may not know how to always do something, but you should always be willing to learn and improve your continuous professional development. And I think you don't need to know everything in life, but it's good to know a lot of different things, and therefore you can be a jack of all trades and adapt from project to project and person to person. It means you can also explore different areas of interest, and this can be done through self-studying, training courses, YouTube videos like this, summer placements or internships. Secondly, to motivate yourself to do more than just your job or your course. I think it's so essential nowadays to become a well-rounded individual. Even if you're just pursuing a tech career, you need to understand how business requirements work or how different people see things on a project. So for me, it also generated talking points in interviews because I had done Wimbledon and I had done a lot of stuff for women in tech. These were things that were actually focused on in my interviews and assessment centres. It could also mean that you're more innovative as you see things from a different perspective. And you, by doing all these different things, you get under people's radar and you can network further. And a lot of people then approach you to help with other projects or initiatives, which grows your eminence internally in your company or in your course, but also externally too, if it's promoted on LinkedIn, etc. And also this passion can maybe then turn into a career. So as you progress throughout your career, you may be asked to sit on different boards or expand your portfolio. And then the third and final one is what I've been saying, is network. So stay connected and reach out to those around you. It increases your confidence greatly and you can gain experience that you wouldn't have gained anywhere else. The maximum that someone can say from you reaching out to them is no, but it may also save you time. So for me, without trying actually on my placement year business operations, I would have probably entered a career in business ops and realized that's not actually for me. So for me, it kind of stuck with me, and it allows you to network a lot more. You can also draw on people's experiences and advice. So I think, almost going back to the poll, one key takeaway if you get from this discussion is to challenge yourself to contact someone outside of your network for a coffee or a catch up or for advice or guidance, no matter how senior they may be. That you can always learn from someone and try and build that rapport and connection with them, that you may not want advice or guidance at the beginning. You just want to discuss things that you've got mutually in common, and therefore build that relationship that hopefully lasts across time.
Thank you very much, Sanaya. Just to go back to the poll, we've got the results in, and 100% of people who participated said that they don't have the confidence or don't know how to professional advice. So the first question, both
I think you're cutting out a bit, Ryan. I don't know if it's just for me.
Right, for me as well. So how about we start with questions that I have, but what I will do is I'll follow on from the polls and the answers. So effectively 100% show that not that they're lacking in confidence, but that there's potential to grow confidence. And I guess we can probably focus on that. So with your journey tonight, it's very interesting because it's showing me that although you maybe was met with something that could be disappointing with your pivot, you've actually used that opportunity as an anchor to grow from. You've kind of set your reference point. You thought, okay, well, how far can I go from here? Which I guess is it shows your character quite a lot, because you saw a positive outcome, even though something was you probably felt maybe unsure about the future at that point. And I imagine all the audits can do as well. So with that light, there's something you really touched upon. When one of your takeaways, you spoke about how you must be willing to learn maybe new skills to help you go to the next level. And of course, that helped you in getting your placement. However, are there certain soft skills that you have learnt along your career that's made you more confident in making a decision, especially when times got tough?
So I think it comes down to things like teamwork, etc. I think with teamwork, more often than not, a lot of people have a very one-sided viewpoint, and working as a team has allowed you to grow your confidence, because it means that you can be heard, and you may have a few knockbacks in life because people don't take on board your ideas, but it can help you grow as a person and see things from a different standpoint. I think as well, it means that your confidence can grow through presentation skills as well. So that's something my course instilled in me. Every week we will be doing a new presentation, and I think I've really developed my confidence through that, and it's been able to translate into my career, and I've got a lot more confident in approaching individuals as well. And again, it is just through trial and error. Like I said, the maximum someone's going to say is no if you approach them. So you may have some setbacks, but more often than not, people want to help you progress through your career.
Mm-hmm. And was there any advice about confidence that really resonated with you, that made you able to pivot from maybe someone who had potential in growing confidence to a point where you can actually teach confidence in others?
I think it was just seeing that a lot of people who are confident anyway think that everyone should think like them. So I think going into areas outside your comfort zone, so talking to mass audiences or on topics you don't know, will actually really help develop your confidence and see that you may not know everything. So from that, you can actually get pushed back a little bit and think, okay, I've got to approach this differently, and from that grow confidence in multiple areas as well, because we can't be confident in everything. We don't know everything. No one does. So yeah.
Just building on that question actually around confidence. So before, if we went back to that slide actually where you'd worked with loads of different organizations in different industries, it can be quite daunting going into a new industry and maybe not having that confidence of knowing it as well as others. How did you cope with that?
So for certain projects, I found that actually really quite difficult to actually comprehend at first, because sometimes I would be coming into a project halfway through where everyone knew everyone else, they knew the project. But I'd say don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of people will pretend that they understand what's going on because they are showing as being vulnerable or that they can't keep up with the project, but it's okay to ask questions. And actually, I think people will really appreciate that you want to learn. So on one of my first projects, I came in and the project had been running for 9 months already. So what I did is sat down with some of the leads for each area and said, can you update me with what you're doing? And therefore you can build a better picture from your standpoint, and you can also ask your questions in a more informal environment, so there's less pressure on you as an individual. And I'm one of those people always in training courses who will put up my hand, always asking questions, because I'd rather ask the question and then do something correctly rather than doing something wrong and make that mistake and have to learn through that.
Ryan, you got a second question, or should I go, or has the audience got any questions actually?
So if you want to ask a question, you've got two ways, either slido.com or through the YouTube comment section. I actually do have another one mainly because Sanaya and I, we have some mutual friends, and a few of them have come up to me before and said, you know what Sanaya does really well is she goes and makes them extra opportunities, and it sets her apart from the rest. I believe the story actually was about, I don't know if you was in between projects or you just moved to a new project, or no, maybe it was you were moving away from a project and you said, actually, I had a really difficult time getting on board this project. How can I give back and make it easier for other new people to be onboarded quickly? And the person who told me this was just like, do you know what? People started then talking about Sanaya, about how proactive she is. So I don't know if you want to shed some light onto that story.
So I think like I've said, it is quite daunting, especially in industry with people who have years, sometimes like 10, 20 years of experience, and you coming in brand new. And as a graduate, I'm constantly wanting to prove myself that you're invaluable to the team and that you know just as much as them. And I think it is very daunting at first, but also you need to have an environment where you feel welcome and you feel relaxed to ask those questions so that you are kept up to speed. And certain projects, I think, forget this because they're so focused on the outcome and client success that they forget about the individuals who are actually doing the work to generate that client success. So if you make sure that those around you feel comfortable and valued, I think you'll have higher output. And even doing something like saying to someone, can we go for a coffee break or anything like this, or just getting to know other members of your team, whether it's at university or in your career, I think that's really invaluable. And those people, again, they add to your network, and as they add to your network, they bring you on to other opportunities. Because I was able to do that with some very senior members in particular projects, when they sort out new opportunities, they actually approached me saying, we'd like to have you on the team because we know how you are, you're friendly, you're outgoing, and you include everyone. And I think that's very difficult when everyone's working in silos. If someone's a developer or someone's DevOps or business analytics, everyone is working separately, but we need to come together sometimes socially to actually have that team bond and morale.
Olivia, questions from your end?
Okay. Well, I guess let's address the elephant in the room. In the situation that we're in, many industries are being affected in ways that are unprecedented. And of course, many of the audience here are probably students. Some are maybe young professionals as well, but most of them may be students. What advice would you give to students now who may aspire to be in a position like you, but in the situation that we're in, they're becoming maybe doubtful as to what could even be feasible? Is there any motivation that you can give them if they aspire to be where you are in the future?
So I would say just obviously relax during this time as well, because university is very hectic as well, but make the most of this time off. So my younger sister's actually at university, and I said to her, after you finish your essays and your coursework, etc., do some online training. A lot of companies aren't offering maybe internships, which you would have done otherwise, or placement opportunities. So try and get training and experience in a different way. So there's so many online courses. I know Harvard has made a lot of their online courses that were originally paid for free, or you've got Udemy. And just think of an area, it doesn't have to be related to your course or the industry you're in, something that maybe you're passionate about that you want to start upskilling in. And that passion could then turn into a new opportunity for you. But use this time to be productive, but also use this time to spend some time working on yourself and thinking, what do you want to do that maybe be a hobby and turn that into a potential career? And I think there's lots of great opportunities out there. There's YouTube tutorials, there's a lot of self-taught guides, there's you can do something with a project with your friend if you want to start doing your own website creation. There's loads of Weebly, WordPress, Wix, where you can start playing around with templates just to get fundamental and foundation knowledge of what goes on into website creation, for instance. So I'd say use online resources. They're there in abundance, and especially during this time, a lot of paid resources are now being available free of cost. So make the most of it and just download them and get started.
So I think you've kind of been answering a question that's come through. So I'll bundle these two together. We had one on, do you have any recommendations for developing skills in the current situation with fewer internships and opportunities, which you've actually started to touch upon. But another one was, could you please give some further details on hackathons and how we can take part in them, which I think links quite well to skills and building them up.
So a lot of companies put on hackathons, and when people see the phrase hackathon, I think they literally think staring at your computer, like hacking into a particular network or a company. It doesn't necessarily have to be about that. So one that I took part in was with Apple, and we had to create a kind of virtual assistant with them that solved a business problem. Another one was we were given a problem and said, it's up to you to now create it for a particular industry. So we chose the aviation industry. So I think hackathons are great, but a lot of companies obviously sponsor them. So it might be worth looking online or approaching companies. You can see stuff on Eventbrite. And over there, hackathons will be usually available for you to participate in, and you can be done remotely for that.
I think another great site for hackathons is devpost.com. There's tons happening, especially right now, actually, all virtual. And as you said, it's a good point that you don't necessarily even need to be a coder, because some of the best hackathon projects is when you get someone who's a good developer with someone who's a good product person, someone who's got some nice ideas, and you sort of bring together a bunch of different people with different skill sets.
And a lot of people, so on Eventbrite, for instance, or Meetup, there's a lot of tech meetups going on, but due to current circumstances, a lot of people are doing them virtually and doing projects through them. So that's a great way to get involved and meet other people who have similar interests to you.
Have you got any other questions from the audience?
So we've got another one, which you touched upon a bit before, I guess. So tips on finding the right mentor.
So I think you need to, first of all, think about why you want that mentor. So is it for career advice or guidance? Is it because they've got a career path that you'd really like to follow? Or is it just because you want someone to actually aspire to and something completely different, so they give an impartial view? Then from that, you can look out to people surrounding you and just think, okay, so for example, in my previous project, there was a particular individual who I thought their career path is very similar to mine, what they studied at university. They came in as a grad job, and from that also, I decided that they'd be a really good mentor, because that's something that I'd like to do, and they've taken similar steps. So I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Look to someone you can relate to and have stuff in common with, and then from that, the relationship will develop.
I think just building upon that point, one of the people who had reached out to me before about mentoring was very clear and said, hey, Ryan, I want you to be a mentor for 3 sessions, and I want to cover these 2 particular topics, and I want your opinion on them. And I just loved how it wasn't that I want you to be a mentor forever. It's let's just test out 3 sessions. This is what I'm hoping to get out of it. Have a think and let me know.
Yeah, they don't. I think they don't have to be a long-term mentor. Sometimes it can be you're in a particular role and you just want career advice and guidance for that, and you know it's not going to be long-term, or it might be a certain project that you're doing. And from that, just remember, you don't always have to stick with the same mentor. You can have multiple ones as well.
Yeah. I'm conscious of time. Olivia, did you have any last points that you want to raise, or questions or thoughts?
I guess we're running out of time, so I just wanted to thank Sanaya so much for joining us, and the audience for participating, because it's our first time doing this and we're just so excited to start. We will have an episode summary going out Friday this week, and we shall continue again next Wednesday. But Sanaya, thanks so much for joining us, and Ryan, lovely to see you both. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely day, everybody.
And thank you to Ryan and Olivia for organising this, and I look forward to the ones coming up in the future.
Yeah. So our next one is next Wednesday, 3:30 UK time. We've got Matthew Carver joining us, who is a tech engineer at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. So it'd be really nice to see someone else's experience in a different industry. So hope you can all join us then.
Great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.